One of the best projects I like right now is an area of town called Costa del Este. This
Mhm.
small neighborhood has over 120 multinational companies headquartered there. And it's
Mhm.
one of these areas, if you have an apartment come available in the morning, it's rented by the afternoon because there's so much
Wow.
demand than there is supply.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and I'm so glad to have you back listening to the show or watching if that's the case. Some of you know you can watch it on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. But really the big thing is the podcast channels you're on. So welcome aboard. We appreciate you being and listening on the show. We've got a great guest today, Melissa Darnay, and she is an expat from the U.S., Texas to be specific, and is now down at Panama. And I want to let you guys know this is the first time we've had this subject. So definitely, put your pet, if you're driving, keep driving. But if you're at home, put the phone down. Be ready to take some notes here because you're going to get some really good golden nuggets today for a subject that's near and dear to my heart because I've been researching this. And I honestly, Melissa, you when this came up, I thought this is like God's just working here because I've been thinking about this for years, researching different places around the world, and here you pop up with this great idea. So let's go ahead and let you take it from here. First off, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And if you wouldn't mind, I love your story. Would you mind sharing, doing a little bit of backstory and let people know a little bit about who Melissa Darnay is, and then we'll go into what you're doing now,
Sure. Yeah, I was living in Dallas and I had been in Dallas for about 15 years. I grew up in California and I was happily married and my husband one day was killed in a car accident when he was going to the grocery store to get milk. And so here I am, a young widow in my 30s, and I was trying to get my feet back under me. And everywhere I went in Dallas reminded me of him because I had never lived in Dallas aside from when I was married to him. I moved there to get married. So I was looking for a little bit of adventure to kind of get my life back on track, if you will.
Mhm.
And at that point, I'd been to about 30 different countries. And every time you go on vacation, you kind of wonder, could I live in that country?
Mhm.
Not too long after my husband passed, I went to Panama for the first time in 2010. And
Mhm.
before landing in Panama, I actually thought Panama was going to be dirt roads and roosters and grubby faced children and a drug dealer on every corner. That was my preconceived
Yeah.
notion. And when I
Mhm.
landed in Panama City, I have to tell you, it was a shock. I hadn't really done that much research before I went. And when I was driving down the street and surrounded by the glittering ocean and glittering skyscrapers and all of these first world amenities and great restaurants, I thought, where am I? Am I in Miami? This is
Mhm.
crazy. So after vacation, I went back home and I was like, could I? And that same sort of thing that goes through your head when you're on vacation or just come back from vacation. And for the first time, I started thinking, okay, let me get serious about this. What would it take? What is it like to, you know, buy a place to live? What is it like to work? What is it like to live? Not just vacation, because I think there's some amazing places to vacation that
Mhm.
I could go every year, but I would never want to live there. So this was really the
Yeah.
first place I got serious about with, could I live there? And I spent the next little while investigating it. It took me about another year, year and a half to go back for my second visit. And that's when I got very serious and kind of looked through the whole country stem to stern and decided, because I was single, could I date? Could I make friends? Could I
Mhm.
work? What would my life look like? And after that
Mhm.
second trip, I really said to myself, you know what? I'm gonna I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna jump in. And once I
Yeah.
get there, if it doesn't work, I can always come back. And
Mhm.
in hindsight, most people who are in that position buy a vacation property and spend a week or two or a month or two in Panama before they actually go head first. But that's my
Mhm.
personality. I dove head first. And I had a
Yeah.
bit of a rough landing because I didn't know anyone in Panama City. I didn't speak Spanish. I think I knew like 5 words. And I
Yeah.
was trying to do everything myself. through that experience, I did come to Panama specifically to do real estate. So I started working with one company and then another, and then I opened my own company in 2016.
Mhm.
But through that experience of me having a rough landing, one of the things that we do a little bit differently is we help people, we hold their hands through the entire process. Because
Mhm.
unlike when you're, buying a new house in the city that you grew up or even another city in the same country that you're from, you may not know how to get internet. You may not know how to turn the electricity on. So we help you with all that. So
Yeah.
that's how I've got that's how I got here. I moved here in 2012 and I don't
Mhm.
think I'll ever leave.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, and this for everybody listening, I just want you to know, I don't like thoroughly research everybody we interview, but we do research, and I tell you, what Melissa provides is true, pure white glove concierge service. I mean, like beyond anything I've ever seen in the world of real estate brokerage. I mean, there's a lot of great realtors that are there to help us buy and sell our own homes and investment properties. But what Melissa's talking about, and she's probably being a little bit humble. I mean, she really helps you understand what it's like to make the move. What are the nitty gritty little nuances, the details? She knows them personally, and there's a lot more to this. I mean, Panama. I mean, I know a lot of people have gone down there and who are investors, by the way, and they make it their home base. And some of them people retire. I know who've gone there. And they're just like they just cash and everything. They're like, done. This is my final chapter. I'm gonna get the straw hat and the what's the hammock? Yeah, the hammock and
Yeah.
the little catamaran and I actually know a retired attorney and he just does sailboat tours. That's all he does. You know,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was he was from New York. He went from the real grind down to luxury. So in paradise. So let's kind of unravel this a little bit. So you moved down there. You really went in both feet first.
Mhm.
Um, let's talk about the brokerage at first. I guess do they have licensing requirements that are mandatory like you have in the States, or is it more flexible like Mexico?
Okay.
Kind of take us down that journey a little bit if you don't mind.
So it's actually, I think of it like a little bit of a surf tidal wave. It was changing like the
Mhm.
minute I landed, and I just was lucky enough to kind of be on the front end of that wave. So when I first moved here, the requirement was to have residency and a corporation, and that is very easy to get in Panama. And then as time went on, there became more and more requirements. So I was able to, like I said, stay on the front end of that. So yes, now I am completely licensed, bonded. The corporation is licensed and bonded, as am I.
Mhm.
So and I have my work permit and all those wonderful things. But
Mhm.
it was something that I was sort of experiencing. Okay, now this has changed, so we need to do this. Oh, this has changed, so we need to do this. But I did stay on the front end of that.
Mhm. Okay, awesome. Now you mentioned tall skyscrapers, and I've
Uh-huh.
never been there. My parents have been there, and it is a beautiful place, absolutely. Even when they went, that was a long time ago. I'm thinking probably in the 70s or 80s. But
Oh, wow.
so
Yes.
yeah, and even back then, it was very nice, and it was a destination place for people having conferences and so forth.
Hmm.
Um, but so your office and where you live, is it similar? Like you live in a condo, and then your office is like there's some buildings are parking, then retail,
Right,
then
right, right, right.
like a boutique motel, that kind of stuff. Is it like that or um?
Yes. So we have a virtual office. So, like many
Ah,
people, we work from home.
okay.
So, the people who are seeing me on video right now, what you're seeing me is in the apartment where I live. Right behind
Hmm.
me is the mouth to the Panama Canal. So, there is jungle
Wow.
and Panama Canal. And if someone were to zoom in, you'd be able to see the ships passing behind me. It's a very soothing place to live. There's also a lot
Mm-hmm.
going on. There's this great app called Marine Traffic, and really it can eat up
Right.
hours of your time as you watch, where did this ship come
Yeah.
from? How much does it weigh? How long is it? Oh my gosh, that ship is the same length as the Empire State Building. All these
Wow.
really amazing things.
Yeah. Well, it sounds beautiful. I want to touch on a subject that's kind of near and dear to my heart too, and it's only because I know people who have gone down there to live and
Uh-huh.
make it their home, and they are investors. They still own properties, mostly in North America. But But what's the investing climate like there? Is it active as far as like rentals? Is it active as far as flips? And of course, a lot of Americans are enamored by Airbnb right now. So
Right.
I don't even know if that's. I mean, some communities don't allow it, but if you could take us down that path a little bit, that would be great. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that. So I'm going to take it piece by piece. So, yes,
Mhm.
the investing community, and there are different neighborhoods, different areas of Panama. And if I were to break them into three main, what we'll call expat areas. So there's Panama City, and that would be inclusive of where I live. Then there is the
Mhm.
Coronado Beaches area. And then there's Boquete, which is more mountains, highland. In the
Mhm.
city, the rental market is strong, it's robust. Of course, we were hurt like a lot of people during COVID, but there are a lot of mid-term, long-term, rental people have purchased to invest. And at this
Mhm.
point, it's actually when someone has a client who's looking for a year-long rental, they can be difficult to find because, for a
Wow.
while there were so many, and now, we're full again, which is great. Um,
Yeah.
in Panama City, in the district of Panama City, there is a law that prohibits short-term rentals under 45 days. Now, as an
Ah.
interesting side note, this came along pre-Airbnb. So this was something that happened in 2012 to protect
Mhm.
the hotels because at that time Panama had gone out and asked different hotels such as the Waldorf Astoria, the Hilton, the Marriott to
Mhm.
invest and build in Panama. So that was something pre-Airbnb. Now with
Mhm.
you know, the prominence of Airbnb, they have developed certain buildings that have Airbnb licenses. So there are only a couple. There's actually one right now that has an Airbnb license that's finished, and there are a couple in pre-construction. So in the city itself, if you're going to do short-term vacation rentals, um, there are a couple projects that I really like because they do hold these licenses. Outside the
Okay.
district, for example, in Playa Bonita, you're outside the district, so that law does not apply.
Mhm.
So you can rent, for week-long vacation rentals, no problem. As far as return on investment, with every investor, it's going to be different. Some people want
Mhm.
growth and appreciation, some people want cash flow. So depending upon what someone wants is where we're going to advise that they look at. One of the best projects I like right now is an area of town called Costa del Este. This
Mhm.
small neighborhood has over 120 multinational companies headquartered there. So the Latin American headquarters for companies such as Procter& and Gamble, Nestle, L'Oreal, Samsung, they're all located there. They've got over 20,000 expat executives working in this one area. And it's
Mhm.
one of these areas, if you have an apartment come available in the morning, it's rented by the afternoon because there's so much
Wow.
demand
Mhm.
than there is supply. So they're building a few pre-construction projects there that start, about in the $200,000 range. And your
Yeah.
ROI would be, in the 8 to 11% range, um,
Yeah.
excluding appreciation.
Well, I'll tell you what, that actually sounds pretty good. I mean, things in the States have, you know, during the pandemic years, there was a massive run up on prices, followed by, of course, increased interest mortgage rates.
Right.
So a lot of returns have been diminished unless you were locked in before and keep your properties, which is a smart thing to do. But back
Right.
to Panama, how about the lending market, the banking industry? Is it similar to what we're used to in
Yeah,
some of the other? Okay.
it's not easy for an expat to get a loan. It's not impossible, but it's not
Hmm.
super easy. One
Yeah.
little quirk is that, in for example, the United States, you'll have the different things built in to protect the loan. In Panama,
Oh
that
yeah.
protection is a life insurance policy. But
Oh, okay.
now here's the quirk. They only issue life insurance policies up until you're 75 years old. So if you're currently 65, that life insurance policy will only be issued for 10 years. Therefore, the maximum loan amount would be 10 years. So
Sure.
you do the math from
Okay.
75 backwards with your age to find out how long that loan could
Right.
be. Also
Term. Yeah.
for expats, you're going to be it's hard to get a 20% down loan. Usually it's going to be 30 or 40% down. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there are some developer financing options that
Mm-hmm.
are slow pay, but those are going to be shorter term, maybe like 5 years, interest only. So there are a couple
Yeah.
options, but obviously cash is king in Panama. So, and we do use the US dollar
Yeah.
in case anyone doesn't know that. So that is the official currency of
Okay.
Panama.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live. Be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to GaryRealEstateWithGaryWilson.com. Click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care. Well, really, I mean, as an investor, I used a lot of conventional lending, borrowing, of course, but there's a lot of other sources of funding, and you can go to life insurance companies and borrow from them.
That's right.
There's a number, and even private lenders. I know doctors personally, they want to be involved in real estate. They just do not have the time, and they're not charging hard money loan rates. They're charging private money loan rates, which is generally a few percentage points above the conventional rates. So it's not a bad deal. You can partner with people. There's all kinds of answers there. So I know we're getting people's interest peaked now. So I want to ask a related question,
Uh-huh.
and it has to do with entrepreneurs. Like you and I are both entrepreneurs, but what kind of what tips can you give entrepreneurs who are looking to open a business in Panama since you've done it yourself, you know?
One of the things I think Panama is the greatest place to be an entrepreneur because it's still a little bit of the Wild West.
Mhm.
Historically, Panamanians were not taught entrepreneurship. So they were taught to get, a job. So they all want to, they either own the company or they're a worker. There's very few entrepreneurs. So therefore, if you look in your home city right now and you write down, 100 businesses, maybe 90 of them won't exist here. Or if they do,
Mhm.
there's certainly room for another one. So if you have an
Yeah.
entrepreneurial idea, the market isn't as crowded here.
Okay. Well, I love that answer. You know, and especially with people like me, I've got like a blank canvas now, and I can really go anywhere, live anywhere, and do whatever I want. And so I'm tempted to come down there. But so let's talk about people who are along the same mindset as me, and it sounds interesting. It looks interesting. Maybe they looked into it. Maybe they've been on vacation there. But
Hmm.
when it comes to like, there's going to be adjustments. There's going to be cultural adjustments. Um, People have questions about cost of living. So if we can unpack that a little bit, let's
Hmm.
talk about cultural adjustments first, and then we can get into some of the meat and potatoes of cost of living and differences there. Um, and I appreciate you sharing all this, by the way. I know a lot of this was your personal experience, and
Yeah,
so it means more. It's just this is one of my most fun podcasts ever.
I'm so thrilled to hear that.
Yeah.
And I just want to say something. I do have a podcast. It's called the Panama
Okay.
Podcast. The reason I want to bring it up right here is because
Yeah.
it's lifestyle based. So instead of a
Yeah.
lot of real estate brokers who are saying, "Oh, this is the property that I have," I'm talking
Mhm.
about like what is it like to go grocery shopping and
Yes.
what are the cultural norms and etiquette and things. We drop, 2 episodes a week, and that is
Mhm.
what it's about. So if you're curious about what I call the soft side of lifestyle, you
Mhm.
can check it out. Some of the
That's Panama Uncorked. No, no, I'm sorry. Panama Podcast.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Panama podcast, and it is on
gotcha.
all the typical places that you'll find a podcast, but
Good.
I
Hmm.
really like video. So if you want to check it out on YouTube, it's at Choose Panama, which is my company name, and you can
Hmm.
see my podcast. Anyway, so
Awesome.
lifestyle, some of the things that are different. As an
Hmm.
American, when I walk into a room and I want somebody to help me, I'm just going to say, basically, hey, can you help me? This is what I need. And
Hmm.
in Latin America, and I'm going to say it's more than just Panama, in Latin America, when you walk into a room, the first thing you say is hello. So you'll say, Buenas tardes, you know, good afternoon. How are you? And that is a cultural secret to not offending the other person. Because if we just walk in and, even if it's a store where they're
Right.
selling, shoes, if I just walk in and say, hey, I want a pair of shoes, they're going to be a little bit put off because in their
Hmm.
culture, you walk in and you say, good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for asking. How may I help you? And it's
Hmm.
a cultural way of getting to the point. When I
Okay.
even write text, I actually write the text because I'm super type A and I'll use 5 words and
Yeah.
then I'll have to go back and edit it. Hi, how are you? Nice to da, 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 and say all the
Hmm.
niceties so that you're adhering to their culture. So that was one
Yeah.
big cultural thing that I had to get used to.
Well, that's kind of a biggie. Yeah. So, yeah.
When you think about it, it's probably how our grandparents did things, and somewhere along the line, probably we changed.
I was thinking the same thing. When we grew up, you know, we didn't have cell phones and computers and internet, and we wrote letters. We wrote letters to our grandparents, and
Yeah.
and now today, getting a letter, it's like it's a big event. And I feel bad for people who were probably born in the 80s and later because they have no clue what it's like to give and receive letters. I just got one, for my dad actually today. And
Oh,
I'm so grateful for it because everything's all email and text anymore. And I'm not against it. I use it all day long, but there's
right.
something special about a handwritten note. And I don't know how
That's
to put words to it. It just feels different.
right. That's right.
So, and greeting people when you come in, you're absolutely right. I remember, and he was a military officer when we went into a room, we addressed everybody there as ma'am and sir, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, ma'am, no, there's a shaking hands, um, holding doors. We today, still today, if I'm out with the woman, I'll hold the car door for her, getting in and getting out, even the door going into and out of whatever building. And at the dinner table in our family, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, when we're all together, the men, we still stand until all the women sit.
Oh, that's
We don't,
wonderful. That's wonderful.
absolutely, yeah. It drives some women crazy. I mean, I've been on dates before and like, do you really have to do that? And I'm like, yeah. So, you know, grandmom's watching,
And
so
and that's something else in Panama. Chivalry is alive and well. It's thriving. If I
awesome.
if I have a problem with my car and I'm over the side of the road, I'm gonna have 5 different, you know, men. They don't
Mhm.
know who I am. They can't see me, but they'll just stop because
Right.
someone is pulled over on the side of the road. And certainly there are people who pull over who aren't affluent, who are, kind of living paycheck to paycheck or, you know, day by day. And so when someone helps you, if you give them a small tip, a couple dollars, $5, they are thrilled. But they know, especially
Mhm.
with expats, that we will, give a little bit of something to help them. And I think that makes them even more want to help us when that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, chivalry is, and the other interesting cultural thing is when you're in a social situation, even when you're being introduced to somebody, you kiss them on the cheek. So it's kind of a light
Really?
air kiss. And one thing I
Mhm.
did learn is you lean in to the right. So because you don't want to be like that
Okay.
awkward, end up kissing somebody on the lips that you don't know. So if everyone goes to the right, they know you do that cheek. And if you do two, then you do right, left.
Okay. And if you have a lucky day, you might brush lips in between
Yeah.
and have a second date. No, just I'm just playing around. Okay, another subject that hopefully is near and dear to other people's hearts. I love food. I love to eat.
Oh,
I even
wow.
started getting into cooking lately. I'm not all that great at it, but I'm on learning. But any differences in food, or what's some of the most common fare down there that you enjoy?
So this is actually the tipping point. This is what made me move to Panama. The
Mm,
food scene in Panama is amazing. I'm a foodie. I need my restaurants. I need my
mhm,
gourmet stuff so that I can cook because I love to cook. So the ability to not only get all of those,
mhm,
crazy things, whether it be Indian or Chinese or saffron or whatever it is, the ability to get the special ingredients and also the breadth of restaurants. One of my podcasts, I had just come back from Tuscany, so I was doing this comparison between Panama and Tuscany. And obviously, I
mhm,
love Italy, so I love Tuscan food. So even in my podcast, I
mhm,
gave Tuscany the point for that one. However,
mhm,
as far as
mhm.
breadth, Panama wins because there are so many people here from around the
Wow.
world, and that gives you
Mhm,
the restaurants. So we have, Russian and Japanese and Chinese and Peruvian, pretty
mhm,
much food from around the world you can get in
mhm.
Panama. So whatever your favorite is, you can get good food here.
Wow. Well, that's good to hear. I've been blessed to be able to live in some pretty awesome places. I was born in Germany, and we came to the States and lived in New York, and then we lived in several places, Washington D.C., but also lived in Toronto for a while.
Uh-huh.
So I've for at least part of my life, I was in areas that were very international, particularly Washington D.C. and Toronto, Canada is a great. Of course, up there, if 5 o'clock in the afternoon in January, it's already dark there. And in Panama,
Right.
I'm sure it's still nice and sunny, and
Right,
warmer
right.
too. So yeah, but I love trying foods from different parts of the world, and I love being able to get authentic ingredients from around the world. And some of my best friends have been Greek, and I've always been lucky to have really good authentic Greek food. So all right, let's now people I'm sure are starting to think more, practical. So when it comes to the cost, like is it comparable to like the cost of going out to have dinner? Is it comparable to like, Chicago or LA or New York? And then if you want to expand on that, the cost of living, like what does it cost for gas? What is how groceries, rent, things like that.
Okay. So restaurants are quite a bit cheaper. I'm always a little bit,
Mhm,
I only go back to the US about once or twice a year, and I'm always a
mhm,
little bit in shell shock. And especially post COVID, I think I'm
mhm,
shell shock about what restaurants cost. Here, you can absolutely go out, and the other thing is the standard tip is 10%. So that saves you 10%, even if everything were equal, which it's not. So you can go out to a very nice, elegant white table restaurant with a bottle of wine for $100. Um,
wow.
Maybe a little bit depending on the wine you buy, a little bit more.
Mhm,
But you
mhm,
could get, great food here that's, between 15 and we'll call it $30 a plate.
mhm.
You can buy a beautiful steak for about $30. Whereas, in the US, I did see that go way, way up if you're going to a nice
Yeah.
place. Um, the I would say prices, restaurant prices from a normal city, not like something like New York, are probably
Mhm.
going to be 25 to 35% less and
Wow.
much more from a bigger city. Yes. And again, you're saving another 10% because standard tip is only 10%.
Yeah.
The, the
That's really good news. Yeah. Yeah.
The cost of living for other things, let's see. If you're going to buy something imported, and
Mhm.
especially if it's imported and it's either frozen or refrigerated, it's going to be more expensive than what you're paying because
Mhm.
it had to get shipped down here. If
Yeah.
you find something local, then you're
Mhm.
going to pay less. So, for
Mhm.
example, if someone wanted to, and for the most part, if you look at your grocery, spend now, you're
Mhm.
most people end up spending about the same because, for example, I'm going to go to the fruit and vegetable market and I'm going to buy bags and bags and bags full of fresh fruit and vegetables for, pennies, dollars,
Yeah.
hardly anything. And then I'm
Mhm.
going to go to the fish market and for like $3.50 a pound, I can buy ahi tuna for,
Wow.
yeah, I can buy huge white Corvina fish for a couple bucks. So
Mhm.
that's on the cheap side. You can buy the freshest chicken and eggs that you've ever tasted. Most people, when they get to Panama, notice the difference in the
Mhm.
taste of chicken and eggs because they
Okay.
are fresh. That
Yeah.
also is going to be quite a bit less expensive. Typically, I'll get the pack of 60 eggs, and that's about $10.
Whoa. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eggs
Uh,
has been kind of the big joke in the US the last couple of years. And it's one of the things I always say, how much are my eggs costing? So
exactly.
yeah.
I eat a lot of eggs because I only eat the whites. Um,
Hmm.
then again, if I'm going to buy something on the opposite end, if I'm going to buy, Philadelphia cream cheese, it's ridiculously expensive. It's like $6 or something for a little block. But there
Wow.
there is a local cream cheese that tastes, amazing. It was just made here with local Panama milk.
Mhm.
So you learn to find things. For example, I won't give up Triscuits or Wheat Thins. I love those. I don't want a different
Yeah.
brand. I want just those. I spend the money on those. But other things like the cream cheese, um, I buy local brands. And then there are so many
Mhm.
other things, for example, that you just learn to get, like ice cream. Instead of buying ice cream from the grocery store,
Mhm.
you can get something locally done. That's a lot,
Mhm.
that's a lot fresher, that tastes better.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that is really good news, by the way. I'm pleasantly surprised. By the way, good cut of beef up here now. You're probably looking at $30 in the grocery store just
Yeah.
for, good cut of, it's insane. Um, but in case, okay, so I know one of the things that people will be concerned about is medical care, hospitals, doctors, and what's that system look like? I mean, I've lived in Canada and the US, and I can make that comparison. Not much different, but there are differences but anything like that in Panama that people should be aware of?
Yes, medical care in the medical system in Panama, I think is Panama's not only gold star, it's the diamond star they get because
Wow.
the medical
Mm.
care here is unbelievably amazing. And I want to give you a
Mhm.
couple of examples. First of
Okay.
all, it's super inexpensive. There's a lot of people
Mhm.
who self-insure, and what that means is they forego the insurance and pay out of pocket because it is so cheap. Like a typical doctor's visit at your, regular GP is going to be about $40. And he's not just going to spend
Wow.
5 minutes with you. He's going to spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour because he cares. That's one thing about the Latin American culture. It is very much person to person. They care about you. The next
Mhm.
day, they're going to follow up with you. Maybe they're going to call you.
Mhm.
Maybe they're going to send you a text. They're going to ask you how you're doing. The first time that
Mhm.
happened to me, I was kind of like, who are you and why are you texting me? Uh, but now
Mhm.
I find it so refreshing because it's like concierge
Yeah.
medicine at this bargain basement price. Um,
Mhm.
and it doesn't matter what doctor you go to, whether it's a specialist, whether it's your GP, whether it's a, med spa, Botox doctor, they're all just going to follow
Mhm.
up with you. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of price. So a friend of mine's husband needed about $100,000 worth of dental work in the US. So he came to Panama,
Okay.
and that total price tag was about $20,000. So it was literally
Mhm.
20% of the cost of what he would have paid. So he saved 80 grand. A lot of people come also to Panama. Medical tourism is very popular here. So, sometimes it's faceless and boob jobs, but other times
Mhm.
it's, you need something more serious, whether it's a bypass or a hip replacement or something like that. So when you come here, you can definitely save money on the
Mhm.
surgery. For a lot of people, what they're going to pay here is going to be less than what your deductible would be in the US.
Oh, easily. I mean, I'm just thinking of, and I'm a pretty healthy person, but I just did start on blood pressure medicine, a very low dosage, but you know, it's just trying to be preventative and that whole experience. And I haven't had that. I've never had to be on any kind of medicine before. I go to physical every year, and thank goodness everything checks out. But um, so from what you just told me there, it'd be a major savings. And I'm sure pharmaceuticals are much less there too. In Canada, pharmaceuticals are much less. because they don't advertise pharmaceuticals in the Canada. There's no pharmaceutical commercials in the US. It's all night long, you know?
Yeah.
And I've heard people tell me about that in places like Italy and Germany. It's just a lot less expensive. So same thing there. If you have a medication, it's generally okay.
Again, it's
Wow.
going to depend upon the medicine. If it's something
Yeah.
that's really name brand and they don't have a generic, it might be a little bit more expensive because, again, it's
Hmm.
coming from the US here. But if it's a generic, it's
Hmm.
probably going to be less expensive. Also, except for things like narcotic medicines, for most things, you won't need a prescription. You're an adult, you can go get your, da 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 refilled, no problem.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I know we're going to run short on time here, but I do want to ask you, you've been there now, I guess going on 13 years,
Uh-huh.
2012,
Yep.
2025.
Uh-huh.
How, and it's how has it shaped your outlook when it, in business and, professionally and personally too, if you don't mind sharing that, because I want people to hear this and, hope it's okay to ask that question. It's something people wouldn't really think of, you know?
I'm
So,
sorry, you were cutting out just a little bit. Can you
yeah.
repeat just the first part of that?
Oh, I'm sorry. How has living in Panama shaped your outlook, both professionally and personally?
It's actually been amazing. I lived in Europe for just under a year, and I lived for the rest of my life in the United States. So
Mhm.
living here has taught me so many things. It's taught me to be a kinder person. I think
Mhm.
that in the US, sometimes we get so busy just living our own lives. It's also taught me the importance of community. Pretty much everyone who moves to Panama, because you're an expat, you can make
Mhm.
friends like that. Most people
Mhm.
will make more new friends in their first month in Panama than they would in 5 years in their home country. And I think it's
Yeah.
because when you get here, you're an expat, it's all new to you. And then when someone enters your
Mhm.
circle, you're more receptive to meeting new people. And then when you get more and more people like that, so when you come to Panama and you enter a community, a room, an event, people are just very welcoming. So it's a very
Mhm.
one of my biggest concerns before moving to Panama was, would I be able to make friends? And now looking back, I laugh at that. It was so ludicrous because it's so easy to meet people and make friends here. That's literally the easiest thing to do. You,
Wow.
I could have a
Mhm.
cocktail hour every single night of the week. Um,
Mhm.
but of course I can't. But I get invited.
Yeah. 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 All right. Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a lot of fun for me, and I really appreciate you sharing all this. So for someone who's listening to this or watching it and they're thinking, hey, I want to learn more. The podcast, uh, to Panama podcast would be a great place to start. And
Uh-huh.
then understand you have an ebook, Panama Uncorked, that people can find. How do they find the ebook? Mm.
Yes, you can go to my website, which is choosepanama.com, and
Okay.
just request a free copy of the ebook. It's called Panama Uncorked: Everything You Need to Know to Visit, Live, and Invest in Panama. And if this is
Okay.
something that you haven't even thought about before, I would say my
Mhm.
ebook is a good place to start. It's really easy reading, I promise, and it's bullet
Okay.
points. If you're not interested in a chapter, you can skip it. It tells my
Mhm.
story, but it also tells the story of a lot of, other people who I've helped um,
Yeah.
invest in Panama.
Okay. And then I understand you also have a YouTube channel.
I do. Yeah, my new
Okay.
YouTube channel is at Choose Panama. It includes not only property listings, but it also includes the podcast, which again is very lifestyle
Okay.
focused. So any
Hmm.
questions people have about, what is it like to go out to dinner? What is it like to, do the banking? All of that is very easily understandable in the podcasts. And it's very visual. So instead of, just me talking, I have a great editor who makes everything come to life.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, I tell you what, that's a great place to start. So we got um, choosepanama.com to get the ebook Panama Uncorked. You've got the YouTube channel at Choose Panama once you're on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
And then the podcast, Panama Podcast. So I'm going to start with the ebook and also YouTube because I've got a big YouTube channel there too. And I love pictures and videos. It's just something about it. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. And
Yes,
especially a place
absolutely.
like Panama. Yeah. It's beautiful palm trees. I'm sure there's lots of flowers and gardens and I mean you just look so happy and at peace. Like you're probably Panama's best poster child, for expats.
You know,
So
and it's interesting because I feel my friends tell me I look 10 years younger now than I did when
uh,
I moved here 10 years ago. So I think
wow.
it is. I think it's such a healthy place to live. The food is healthier. The humidity keeps your skin nice and plump. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, I need some of that myself. I just turned 62 earlier this month, and I jokingly told people I ran my age through an AI robot, and it reversed it. So I'm actually really only 26. I just got to go back and get into some sunshine and make it look like it's real. So, but well, I tell you what. One more question because I'm sure people are thinking of this like I am. Probably coming down to the visit is the best way to start. Just take a vacation. Um, you know, any tips on there? I mean, I've traveled lots of places, and it sounds like you have too, and you kind of learn certain tips and tricks about, where to stay and things like that and what to look for. Anything along those lines you can share with people before we sign off here?
absolutely. If you're really serious about coming to Panama from with the intention of maybe it could be someplace you could invest, let us help you. Let us carry you through the entire
Okay.
process. We do manage vacation rentals. So again, at the website choosepanama.com, you can find the vacation rentals. You contact us on the website. We'll, tell us your dates. We'll help you find one that meets your budget. And then once you arrive, we'll take care of everything for you. And if you have questions, if you need help getting around, if you need help getting to the grocery store, again, one of the goals of my company, because I had such a hard landing, is to make it super easy for everyone else. So we let you
Yeah.
have the fun and the wonderful things, and then we take the hard things because now we know how to do them.
Yeah. Well, I'm not at all surprised. It's like I said in the very beginning, it's really clear that what you provide is true white glove concierge service. And what you just described there is a perfect example of that. I mean, who gets that in the world of real estate these days? It just doesn't happen. It's very rare. And you do it in a beautiful place, great place to visit. I mean, if you've got nothing to lose, people, if you go there and visit, and decide you want to stay in Chicago or wherever you are, that's great. At least you gave it a try and you got a nice vacation attitude. Got to meet some like people. You might be able to meet Melissa. You never know. Go to the office and see. I'm sorry, it's a virtual office. That's right. But
Yeah,
but
if you
sure,
stay with us, we'll make sure you get a visit in sometime. And also, I
there
just
you go.
want to mention too, when you're thinking about the cost, we have apartments ranging, starting at $100 a night, up to $500 a
Wow.
night. But it can be very, very affordable to come here and have a little vacation.
Well, what's neat is because it's hilly, you just like the coast of California, there's probably properties off the coast or up in the hills that still have a view of the Pacific and like you're
Yeah.
in the canal, the Panama Canal, it's amazing.
And that's what we specialize is oceanfront properties because
Okay.
these in the US are, unattainable not only because of the purchase price, but because of the carrying costs. And carrying costs
Mhm.
in Panama are very, very low. We don't have any
Mhm.
natural disasters, so insurance is low. Um,
Okay.
when the amount of money you pay people is low, so therefore, the HOAs are low. So a carrying cost for, a two-bedroom condo might be, you know, all in insurance, HOA, electricity, everything could be under $500 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I
way
should have led with
I
that.
know. I mean, I'm looking at places now and I'll just name it Virginia Beach where I used to live and went to college here. The HOA fees alone are $1,500 a month. Just the
Yeah.
HOA fees. It's
Yeah.
insane. So I tell you what, I'm going to make it a point to come down there. I'd love to meet you and maybe go look at some properties and I'm intrigued, and I hope everybody listening just don't don't sell yourself short. I mean, take advantage of something like this. I'm sure this is a great awakening for a lot of people who had no idea what this was like down there. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, guys. Please remember YouTube channel at Choose Panama, the website choosepanama.com, where you can get the book Panama Uncorked, okay, for free. By the way, you just download it and watch and listen to the podcast, Panama Podcast all with Melissa Darnay. So, Melissa, thank you again for joining us. This has been a real treat for me, and it's the last thing I'm doing today. So I'm signing off on a high note. This is awesome. And for everybody listening, we really appreciate you listening and watching, and we really love your reviews. Please leave a review. This is probably one of the most fun ones we've ever had. And if you could do that, Melissa and I both appreciate that. The podcast world, we kind of run on your reviews, so that's how it works. But everybody take care of yourselves. God bless you and your families, and we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.